welcome to our session with Dean. I see Dean Phillips here. Hi, Sarah. I'm Gina. I'm one of the admissions counselors here at Pacific University. Everybody has their admission counselor that you've been working with. So I have the territory of Southern California and Colorado and all of our international students. So I just wanted to welcome you to today's session. And I know we have a lot of new names and new faces today, so it might be maybe your first time on some of the Zoom sessions with us. If it is your first session, welcome, welcome. Please, if you can ensure to change your name so it reflects first and last name. That way, if there are any questions that we can't get to today, we want to make sure to follow up with you. And if you do have any questions throughout the session, feel free to go ahead and send it in the chat on the bottom below. If you hover onto the bottom of the screen, you can click on the little chat bubble there, and then you should be able to type in your questions, and I'll be kind of moderating the session. So before we begin, I do want to address the one question that was kind of the more common question that we had for our families who have deposited about our confirmation agreement. And the question was, if I sent in my deposit, do I still have to send in my confirmation agreement? Is that something that I have to do separately? When you sent in your deposit, our operations team actually went ahead and did it for you. So you guys are all squared away. You are A-okay on that. No need to send in any separate information. And so that was just kind of, I think, several families had that question. So I just wanted to address it before we hop in here. So hopefully that was able to kind of clear some of that confusion. And without further ado, we're just going to go ahead and get started. Hi, Sarah.
Hello. Hi, thank you all for being here. Thanks for sharing your Sunday afternoon, your very last day of May with me. Welcome to my spare bedroom. Next time I see you all, hopefully it will be in my office on campus. So I'm Sarah Phillips, and I'm the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at Pacific, where our undergraduates are all starting out. And I thought I would start today with talking a little bit about some of the things that I am looking forward to and excited about this next year. I know you all have questions, and I'm happy to answer any of those questions, but I thought I'd start us on something just because I can, but to talk a little about some of the things that I'm looking forward to and excited about. One of those things is next fall, we will be rolling out our revised exercise science major. That's one of our most popular majors. We are now going to call it kinesiology, and we've revised it so that students studying that major have a broader range of options. The students who have studied that over the years, they vary in terms of what their interests are. Some of them are interested in medical school. Some of them are interested in physical therapy, occupational therapy. Some are interested in being coaches, or a whole variety of things. And so what we're trying to do is better match that broad range of interests of our students. So that's one thing that I'm very much looking forward to. We are also updating and growing our disability studies program that has become very popular with our students in recent years as we have added in American Sign Language at Pacific. We find that we have an awful lot of students who are very interested in studying American Sign Language. Some of the other parts of our disability studies program, we link up with our outdoor leadership minor, which we have in our outdoor pursuits program. So students who are in the disability studies program, some of what they learn to do is how to lead outdoor adventures with folks who have various disabilities. So that's a pretty cool program. We are, well, I guess I will say this now, I'm not going to have this next fall when you come, but I'm going to tell you what I'm super excited about that I've been working on just lately is working with the faculty to figure out how we can have an outdoor leadership and adventure major that would include a semester in the wild. Now, I don't have that figured out yet, but it can be done, I know. So we're going to figure that out, and I'm excited about that. So we also, I feel like I should say, just as we're getting started, that if you happen to be a writer or interested in creative writing or the performing arts, you should check out our creative writing and our theater programs. They have been on fire this spring. Apparently being locked up and having nothing to do but write is really good for them. So they've been winning all kinds of awards, and our students have been getting published. They've really been doing a fantastic job. So those are some of the things that I'm excited about coming up this fall. I'm also just excited to be back on campus and be back seeing students and working with students in person. I know that you all will have a lot of questions about how that's going to happen and how are we going to do that. So let me tell you a few things to get started, and then I'm happy to answer any of your questions. So one of the things, the way that opening up universities works is that universities work in concert with the public health departments in our county, so that we are in compliance with all county and state regulations in terms of what we do on our campus. And we have a close relationship with them. We work hard to stay lockstep in everything that we are doing. So I wish that I could say everything's going to be just like it's always been. It's going to be a little different. It's still going to be great. And you're still going to get to spend time with your professors doing the things that you want to do and making new friends and doing the things that, you know, makes college wonderful, and especially that first year of college, such a magical thing. We will have some differences, like we will not have any large classes sitting tightly in a room. Now, when I say a large class, I'm saying a large class at Pacific. A large class at Pacific means we won't have anybody, you know, any class with 35 students in a room. A state school, a large class is 500. So it's all relative, but for us, we won't even do that, right? We'll have it smaller, so our students are well spread out. We are going to change around our fall calendar a little bit, so that one of the best ways we know of to prevent transmission or spread of the virus is to limit travel. And so we didn't want to tell everybody they can't go home for Thanksgiving. So what we're going to do is we are going to have our students, we're going to be face-to-face up through Thanksgiving. Then at Thanksgiving, when students go home, we will have final exams online after Thanksgiving. We will also have classes on, normally we have 2 3-day weekends during the fall. We will not, again, just to minimize travel on those weekends. So students will end up with about the same number of class days, same number of finals days, so not everybody's worried about that, but same number of class days, but moved around a little bit, so that when everybody travels home, they're not then traveling back and then back home again another week and a half later. So that is one of the changes we're making. I'm happy to talk about any of the other accommodations that we're doing to make sure that we keep folks safe. But I don't know, Gina, if this is a good time just to turn over if there are questions or what you can do from there. Okay.
It's perfect, because one of the questions is from the 3 paths model that we kind of touched on, can a student change their mind, or is it written in stone? So they were maybe online and decided, hey, I kind of want to be on campus.
Yes. So yeah, so when you're a student, you're a student, and our job is to help you be successful, right? So we're not going to say, oh no, you made your choice, that's it, you're done. No. So we will work with you on that. It is my hope that if there are students whose circumstances just don't allow them to come to campus, I want to see, let me just be clear, I want to see you on campus, that's where I'm going to be. So, but if there is a reason that prevents you from being on campus, let's say that changes in October, fine, you can come then. You know, we're small, we will be in touch, we'll go back and forth, right? So anybody who is studying remotely will have an academic coach checking in with them every single week. So it's not like we're not going to know what your plans are. So we will work with you on that. Our commitment, when you commit to coming to Pacific, our commitment is to work with you. You're our student. And so we will take care of you in that way.
Perfect, thank you. And the other question that comes in was regarding scholarships. So if they continue to take classes in the fall, will the scholarships still be applicable, and how does the cost of tuition look like?
So if the question I'm assuming, so if you are taking courses online in the fall, then, so if you are taking the way that we are not an online school, we are an in-person school. And so when we do online, we do it a little bit differently, right? So these aren't MOOCs, right? These aren't giant classes that folks sign into, with 10,000 people around the room. You will be in the exact same class as the other students in the class. So if your English 180 meets at 9 a.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you will be in the 9 a.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays class, right? It will stream live to you, right? So, and all of our students use a learning management system. We use Moodle on our campus, and so you'll access course materials through that. So, so you're gonna get the same class, right? It's not the same as being sitting in a room with somebody, but you're getting the exact same class. So we're not taking away any scholarships. Those are your scholarships. So, so you don't have to worry about any of that part of it.
How will Pacific reconfigure its two-person dorm rooms? I know the standard was kind of where most of our students will be coming into. How are we planning on keeping them safe if we can't social distance?
Yeah, so we will follow, there is the state of Oregon, I don't know where you all are, but the state of Oregon has a higher education coordinating commission. And just bear with me for a minute, but here's how it works. So the Higher Education Coordinating Commission is the organization that manages how all the universities, colleges and universities in the state work. They all make recommendations for here's how we think things should run to the Oregon Health Authority. The Oregon Health Authority makes recommendations to the governor, and the governor comes back and tells us what we can and can't do. So right now, in the current phase that we are in, the requirement is, well, the phase that we will be in, June 1. So today, Washington County is still before phase 1. And in before phase 1, we have to have one student per room. After that, we have to have 64 square feet per student. And so most of our rooms are actually large enough that is two students can be in there fine. If the state comes back and says no to that, or if we see that increases people's risk, then we will make a change there. But likely what we're going to do in residence halls is consider the floor of your residence hall to essentially be your family, right? Everybody needs some folks that they're not worried about, right? They get to be around and be relaxed around and that kind of thing. And so, so most likely that's what we are going to do. We're going to define each floor of a residence hall as a family unit as far as we are concerned. And so somewhat limiting movement around, right, from outside that family unit from floor to floor, except when you're in classes and that kind of thing. But when you're in your hall, you're on your floor. So that would be our first thing. We have systems for they don't like me to use the word contact tracing because it's scary. So it is monitoring and supporting is what I'm supposed to say, you guys. We have systems for monitoring and supporting. So any student who is exposed or becomes ill, we have, I spent Friday working out access to free testing for our students. So should we need that, we do have plans to make sure that our students have 6 feet of space, whether they're in the dining halls, whether they're in the residence halls, whether they're in the classrooms. So we will work out those things. And I say all those things and I'm in my head, I'm thinking, that doesn't sound so great, but not all of it is going to sound bad to students. So for example, one of the things we're figuring out is one of our plans we might do is we might start serving sushi out of the art gallery. It will be the most attendance the art gallery has ever had right now. So some of the things the students will like, we've talked about having broadcasting talent nights from the theater and figuring out how to link it up to, we have screens throughout campus, how to link up to all those screens so students can see even if they can't all go into the theater at one time, how to broadcast theater performances that way, how to run competitions between residence hall floors because those floors can be together, that sort of thing. So I know that when we're nervous, we tend to talk about the the sort of 6 feet side, the not as fun side, but some of it will still be pretty fun for students. I'm waiting for my award for serving sushi out of the art gallery. So
That would be the best thing to be known for. It's
I know.
the dean who serves sushi at art, so that's perfect. And I know there's a huge COVID task force that's been working pretty much every day around the clock, and so
Yeah.
thank you for that. The next question comes, what do we know the return date after Thanksgiving for January term? Is it still on schedule?
Yep. So far everything else is running on schedule. There's been no changes to the January term, and so everyone should just plan on that as usual.
And just to clarify, January term, again, depending on how many credits the class is, the start date will be different. Usually, I believe generally the 4 credit classes will probably start almost as soon as New Year's is over. Our credit classes will start probably about mid-January. So just depending on what those credits are, the start date does vary for person to person.
Yeah, and our in January term, if you're not familiar, right, that's our sort of special term where every student just takes one class. During the semester, you take multiple classes and you move from faculty member to faculty member, right? What we want to try to do is throughout the course of the year, give students a variety of different ways of learning and a variety of different ways of being with their professors. Because one of the things that we know as educators is that our students are most likely to succeed when they develop mentorship relationships with their faculty. And so we want them to have different ways of interacting with their students. So that January term, students take one class at a time and they spend a lot more time with a single faculty member. So it's one class for multiple hours a day instead of multiple classes for a couple hours a day.
Awesome. And to follow up on that, do we know if winter term will be offered online at all, or would that all be in person?
So my plan is, again, we're not an online school. So as soon as we can be all face-to-face, we will be all face-to-face. If we can't be all face-to-face in January, we'll adapt. My commitment to my faculty and my students is that we are having college, we are having classes, we will move people along one way or another. So right now, our plan is to be all in person. And if that's not possible, we will figure it out.
Awesome. And this next part, it's got a few different parts to this question, and it was kind of going back to social distancing and being in the dorm rooms.
Sure.
So we're just asking for some more clarification. Not clear if you're planning on 1 or 2 students per room.
Yeah.
Kind of expand on that.
Yes, it depends on the room. So that's why I can't give you an exact answer, because it depends on the room. So it depends on the room and depends on the size of the room. So there will be, at this point, unless there is something that prevents us, we will have both options, right?
Perfect. And then can you expand what you mean by floors are together? Does that mean students can only hang out with the people on their floor and can't meet anyone else on campus?
No, so it's not. I always feel like I have to remind people that it's not prison. So you will get to. I mean, you're going to go to class with all these people, right? So it is just a way for us to limit certain amounts of time that are spent with students. There's a difference between spending, a couple hours in the dining hall with some folks or spending an hour in class versus sitting next to somebody for 4 hours, right? So in terms of a person's exposure, right? This is assuming there's no vaccine yet, right, by this time. So we're trying to limit the number of people that you're sitting next to for 4 hours at a time, right? And to give students a space where they don't have to be worried so much about their 6 feet of distance, right? So it isn't that you're prohibited from seeing other people. It's just about trying to limit who you are sitting closer to, who you are sort of having your guard down, right, a little bit with.
Absolutely. And I apologize. I can't remember what the nice term was. contact.
Yes, and I
Probably
started monitor and support. You'd like to ask me about
monitor and support.
Mhm.
Can you expand more on what our plans are to monitor and support the students?
Yes, I can. So, we're prepared to take whatever precautions are required at that time. So we're in the very last day of May. We're not coming back till the end of August. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like then, right? Things have, as you've noticed, have changed a lot, right? Quickly in a couple of months. So, but we are prepared to do whatever it is that we need to do. I literally have, well, they should arrive this week by Tuesday, 6,000 masks sitting in my office. I have, I think, 32 infrared thermometers sitting in my office. So we will do what we need to do to keep folks safe, right? We'll set up those systems as we need them. We have plans, for example, in our dining hall for how to manage crowds in there so that there's people aren't touching utensils together, that kind of thing. In terms of our not contact tracing, our monitoring and supporting system, what that is about is that if a student is exposed or if a student starts showing symptoms, we need a system in place to monitor and support that student. And so we actually do have protocols established for that, including dorm rooms off by themselves in case we need that, to have students there, and a system that will get them their classes piped into those rooms and food delivered to them. And so we have a whole protocol for that, so that we can do that if we need to. If a student gets sick, we've had students on campus all spring and we have not had that problem yet, but we are planning for it in case that we do. So we do have a system for that. We have a system for contacting the students who live around any student who becomes ill or are in class with any student who becomes ill. So we will have a system for that on campus.
Perfect. And I always like to plug in, our provost's background is in infectious diseases. And so she very much knows what needs to be in place to keep the students safe. And that's always something that I like to remind our families. We literally have an expert running.
I know. Well, and how about this? I spent 2 years in Yale Medical School in their epidemiology program right before I came here. So finally I'm getting to use that.
You're putting your degree to use.
I know, finally.
So we are very much in good hands. We have a lot of confidence in our leadership here today. So the next question kind of comes, and I know this is something that we're not quite sure of, fall sports. What's happening with fall sports?
Yeah, I sure wish I could give you a for sure answer on that yet. So we are, we're an NCAA Division III school, and so we are subject to what the NCAA says that we're going to do for Division III schools. So far, they have not said anything. We are also in the Northwest Conference of Schools, so we are subject both to the Northwest Conference and to the NCAA. They are meeting weekly, and so far, they just have not made a call. So what that means to us is that we are preparing to have fall sports, and we will figure out how to do that. I don't know if we will have a sports season that is exactly like a typical fall sports season. The Northwest Conference may decide something like limited travel, so that you're not going as far out of the area when you're doing competitions or games. But we're preparing for that, even if that's the case, where we've replanned how the traffic flow is through our athletic center, so that when you have visiting teams, they're in one spot downstairs, so they're not anywhere else in the building, that kind of thing. So right now we're planning for sports. And I promise, as soon as I know, you will know. I'm not hiding anything. I wish I knew. But that decision is one where we have to follow rather than getting to make the decision ourselves. So, because obviously it doesn't work if one school decides, hey, we're playing, and everybody else says, no, we're not playing. There's nobody for you to play then. So you have to make that decision together.
And some of the others question is the expected start date of school still going to be the same? Are we still planning on same date?
Yep, no change.
Awesome. Orientation is August 27th on Thursday. And so that's when, did I get that right? I'm in July. I'm just double checking. Yep, August 27th. And orientations should be sending out some information on kind of check-in times and move-in times, because obviously that's going to change as well too. So we are still planning on the same timeline for a start date.
And you will get before that, right? You'll get contacted, and you'll have an advisor contact you and help you choose your classes and register for classes. So you'll be all set when you arrive, when you start. So your job then will be moving in, right?
My next question was, how do we register for classes?
That's how you register. So what happens after you deposit is you will get what we call an academic interest survey, which is just a bunch of questions about, hey, you know, are you interested in this? Are you interested in that? And I promise you're not committing yourself to, you know, your major or your lifetime of study. They're just trying to figure out, well, in general, what sorts of classes might you be interested in, as a way of giving the person who is going to contact you and advise you just sort of for a starting point, right? So we have, I know this because I had to put them all online this last spring, 889 classes every semester. And so it lets them narrow down that 889 a little bit to help you choose classes. So what happens is you fill out that survey that talks about what are the sorts of things that you're interested in. Then you will get contacted by an advisor, probably like this, over Zoom or over the phone, and they'll help you choose your classes for the fall. And they will talk you through other things like, believe it or not, what do you want to do when you're done with college? I know it's hard to believe that people will be asking you that question when you're registering for your first set of classes, but we will. It helps us think about your career and what other sorts of things we want to make sure, what other sorts of experiences we want to make sure that you have while you're in school and while you're taking your classes. They will talk to you about, you know, what is are you a morning person? Are you not a morning person? So they can help you choose classes, that kind of thing.
Yep. Thank you. And just to reiterate for sports, what happens for the athletes who need to stay after Thanksgiving? Are they allowed to stay?
Yep. Yeah, students can stay. They just can't be traveling around and then come back and forth, right? But students will be able to stay. We will still feed you, all of that. So.
And a question, I think this might have to do with the advising and registration. Is it the same for transfer students? Is it any different for transfer or incoming?
Yeah, so it's going to be this year pretty much the same, right? Normally we have things on campus, and so that's a little bit different. But this year, in terms of how you get advised, it'll be the same. If you're a transfer student, you will probably get a call, relatively soon, a little ahead of the first-year students, because first-year students are first-year students. They're in lower-level classes. Transfer students are often coming into upper-level classes, and so it's a sort of a different set of courses that we're advising into, and so the advisors will often try to contact transfer students a little bit early to try to get them in those upper division classes.
So, and traveling, so this question comes from a family in Hawaii. Haven't made any travel arrangements yet and was wondering if there will still be a chartered flight for Hawaii students.
Yeah, I don't know about that. So yeah, I can't answer that, but we can probably find out an answer and get it to you. So if you can just send your name in, or send Gina your name, we can find out that answer. I don't actually know the answer to that, so I'd be making something up. I could make something up, but
yeah, we'll just leave it at that, and we'll make sure Auntie Donale or Donna or Uncle Jeff, who takes care of our families from Hawaii, will be getting back to you to answer those questions. And the next question that's popping up is, how are we determining classes that are going to be held online and that's going to be held in person?
So our default is always in person, right? That's what we do. And so what will go online will depend on the class and what we need to do. So not to be unbearably nerdy, but we really, really care about what happens in our classes. And this is what we do. This is why faculty come to Pacific, is because they care about their classes, they care about what happens in their classrooms. And so we don't have a blanket rule of this kind of class will be online, this kind of class will be face-to-face. Our default is your face-to-face, because that's for us, that is the sort of teaching that we do. That's what we excel in. We will put classes or parts of classes online as we need to in order to meet the requirements, right, of social distancing. All classes will have the possibility of streaming, since we don't know what students will need that. And since if a student is ill and needs to be in their room for a certain number of days, they can still take their classes by streaming them. So all classes will have that capability. It depends a little on the class. So some things like, let's talk about lab sciences for a minute. So some things like lab sciences, one possibility is to put lecture material online, let students, listen and read the lecture online, and then break up the labs into smaller lab groups. So you're never attending a lecture together, but you're going in small groups into lab to do the hands-on stuff. So that seems like a pretty, likely way that we will go with some of our lab science courses. Other courses will be different, right? Some of our classes are small enough that it's not really an issue. We can spread them out in a room and it'll be fine. And so it depends a little on the class. I'm sorry, I know that's not a super satisfying answer, but it's an honest answer.
Thank you. Donna is on with us here today. She did let me know that Janelle will be contacting families about flights and options to our Hawaii families soon. So just keep your eyes peeled for that. And the next question that we had here is, will there be enough student housing if the students have to be alone and singles in their rooms?
So if all of our students have to be in singles, then no. Not for all of our students to be on campus. Then, we have systems for this, right? So right now, we allow upperclassmen to stay in the residence halls, and quite a few of them do stay living on campus. I would too, if I were them, right? But most likely what we would be doing is we'd go to a system of offering priority to new incoming students, so that those students have a chance to meet more people and make friends and sort of get settled in. So if we have to go to that, I expect we will know that in the next couple of weeks. I was expecting a report from the Higher Education Commission this last week, didn't appear. So I'm hoping within the next couple of weeks. But right now, I think, right now we're moving ahead with our plan of ensuring a certain number of square feet per each student per the requirement, and I hope that's where we will still be when we come in August.
Perfect. And is the June 1st a final deadline? I know that's Monday, so it's just around the corner. And what are the options to have this extended if you're still undecided and still talking to maybe some of the coaches around here?
I think that's not, I guess I don't think I'm allowed to answer that. I think what you need to do for that is contact your admissions counselor and talk with them about it, if you need an extension, and they will work with you on that, right? So, so this is will be my unbelievably 26th year at Pacific. I came as an assistant professor, right? My very first full-time teaching job. Here's what I can tell you in those 26 years of being at Pacific and all the different sorts of jobs I've had there. There have been a lot of changes, but there are some things that have never changed. And what has never changed in all that time is that college is there for students, is about helping students learn. And so we are not out to get you. They're not traps. It's not that kind of a thing. There's not a trick. We want you to be successful. And I think the admissions counselors would agree with me that, if Pacific isn't the right school for you, you're not going to be successful. It needs to be the right school for you. So I happen to think Pacific is a pretty magical place, but you have to think that too, right? And then you will be successful there. And so if you are worried about that, that deadline tomorrow, contact your admissions counselor and talk with them about it.
Yep, absolutely. We are more than welcome to any type of emails that you guys get. Feel free to send them out to us, and we'll be more than happy to extend out the deadline and find a timeline that works best for you and make sure that you're not missing out on any other important things. So we want to work with you. Make sure to reach out to your admissions counselor, or you can reach out to me if you've been seeing my face these past few weeks and you're feeling more familiar with me. Feel free to email it to me. glee@pacificu.edu. I've made it pretty easy to remember. So feel free to email me if you would like an extension, and be more than happy to work with you on that. The next question that comes in is, I guess there was still a little bit of confusion of whether or not the classes will be fully online. Could you actually go into a little bit more detail about what that the 3 paths to Pacific is? I know there's kind of confusion there. So if you can talk about those things, that would be great.
Okay, so option 1, come to college, right? Just like normal, go to class. That's 1, right? If that is that should be, folks, that should be your default, right? In the absence of some reason not, right? That's what you should do. That's what, I assume, got you first looking at Pacific, right? So come to college, come to campus, go to class. The second option, there are some folks, I've talked with a couple of our returning students who have underlying health issues, and the fall they're not gonna be ready in the fall. Even as much care and caution as I can take, they're not gonna be ready in the fall. I respect that, fine. I don't want them to fall behind. So what they will be able to do is they will attend their classes remotely. So that's what the remote option is. The classes are, again, we're not an online school. They're not these classes that exist out there that people from all over the world sign into. What you'll be taking is the same class as if you were on campus. So if you have Psych 150 on Wednesday at 10, you'll have Psych 150 on Wednesday at 10, and the professor will have a camera in their room streaming the class lecture. So you'll be attending the class with the other students just over like this, right? Just over your computer rather than in the classroom. And so for students who have an underlying health issue or something like that, right? That is what the remote option was made for, is so that those students do not fall behind. Because again, I want to be true to what I say, that when you deposit and you're our student, we figure out how to make you successful, how to help you through. So that's the deal. So that's what that second option, that remote option is really about. The third option isn't really an option about coming to college. It's an option about delaying coming to college. So that's what a deferral is. And students can request, you have to apply to defer, and you can request a deferral either for a semester or for a year. And what that means is you are holding your admitted spot. If you are deferring just to the spring, we will hold your financial aid package and you will get the spring half of it, right, when you come. If you defer for a year, we will hold your spot in the class, your admit status, but we cannot hold your financial aid. You have to reapply for that because financial aid is an annual thing. It's based on, the financial aid scholarships that are available that year. So, so that part can possibly change. So you need to know that when you are thinking about deferring for a year. So does that help?
Yeah, I think so. I think that kind of just clarified some things. So we'll have class in the fall. We will also have online options. And that's really for students who might not feel comfortable being here in the fall in person. And so we're almost, I think, out of questions. And so any last minute questions, please go ahead and add it in there. And while I do, I just wanted to reiterate that if you've already applied and you've been admitted, and you're gonna go to college and you're just not sure about coming to Pacific, if the option is to go to college, come to Pacific. I do want to say, whether it be in person or online, the amount of support that Pacific is able to offer to our students is amazing. And being a non-Pacific graduate, which is I get an honorary degree according to Uncle, has been amazing, and nothing but positive experiences here. So the scholarships getting deferred again. So one more time, the merit scholarship, if they defer to spring, we can hold it. And then if they defer to next year, they would have to reapply for financial aid, but not for admission. Is that correct?
Correct. If you are accepted for deferral, that's why you have to apply for it. And then that means we hold your slot, right, in the incoming class. But you'd have to reapply for financial aid for the next year. For the spring, you don't have to reapply for financial aid.
And going back to the deposit, do I have to wait until I get accepted, or should I send in my deposit first? We ask that you wait to ensure that you are accepted into the university before you send in your deposit. Great news is things have kind of slowed down on the application review side. So we are pretty much responding within 24 hours. So if you get us all the documents to us, we are able to turn it around fairly quickly in regards to whether or not what your admissions decision is. So just make sure to reach out to your admissions counselor to verify that you have all the correct documents that you need. And that way we can ensure to get you admitted. And I'm actually really loving these last two questions here. The first one I want to ask is, if you are on campus, can you take some classes online? So kind of do half-half, is that possible?
Yeah, so again, we don't have a bunch of these online classes that don't have face-to-face components. So if you're an on-campus student, this next fall, you're likely to have some classes that are hybrid, right? That have some parts that are online and some parts that are in class, but you're not likely to find a whole lot of strictly online classes, because that's not the school that we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
We run those in the summer. But during the year, what we do is we really try to build that relationship between students and faculty as closely as we can. So if you are on campus, can you take an online class? Yes, there's nothing stopping you. I don't know that there'll be a whole lot of those that won't also have a face-to-face component. You will probably have some parts of your classes be online.
Awesome. And actually, this is a good question that I myself don't know the answer to. Can a first-year student opt to live off campus and do in-person classes, and then kind of that way they're able to social distance and not be in the dorm?
Yeah, so we have a residency rule for first-year students that first-year students live on campus. If you have a concern, you can contact your admissions officer or your admissions counselor, and they can help you figure out how to get in touch with housing. We do have a system for exceptions to be made for students who live in the area, so you can request that exception, and it just varies on a case-by-case basis. The reason why we have students live on campus is because we know that students who are more tightly integrated into campus are more successful, and it's hard to be successful if you don't have the supports around you and students around you, friends, that kind of thing. So we try to encourage that on campus, but there are possibilities to live at home. You just need to contact our housing office, and your admissions counselor can help you with that.
Perfect. And typically, the first 2 years, students are required to live on campus unless their immediate family members live within a 20-mile radius of campus. For our transfer students, you are not required to live on campus if you are going to be the age of 20 before the start of classes in August. So hopefully that answers a couple of the questions there. And then one more, if I do online in the fall, will there be a possibility that there will not be a dorm space in the winter?
Yes. That is a possibility. You can talk with housing. I believe they are looking at mechanisms for students to hold a room. If they know that is their plan, is to study remotely in the fall and then come in spring, a way to hold that room for them. So that would be a question, again, back to housing. But is that possible? Yes. but there is a possible way of preventing it by reserving a room. I just don't know the exact mechanism for reserving the room. So you'd have to go through housing for that.
And I will add in housing's contact information in the chat room. And this is the question that I was really excited about. What's your favorite book on the shelf behind you? And more importantly, why is it your favorite book?
Okay, so somewhere on those shelves, there is, you can see there's a wedding picture of my parents in there. So if somebody, if you want to grab the screen and then you can zoom in, there is a book on there that is published by me and a book on there that is published by my sister. So those will be my favorites, and you see if you can find them in there. So.
It's a little challenge. We have time for that. That'd be great. All right. Well, thank you so much. I think those are kind of, we were actually able to get all the questions answered here. And so if there were any questions that we weren't able to get to, I apologize. You can always make sure to email it to me. Again, it's going to be glee@pacificu.edu, and I put that in the chat below. And any other questions you have, talk to your admissions counselors. We are literally working around the clock for you here. We want to make sure that you have all the confidence in us when you do come to us in the fall, and we want to make sure that
Sure.
you have all your questions answered. And thank you, Sarah, for spending Sunday afternoon with us, and thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate everything, and have a good rest of the evening.
All right, you all. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye bye.